All right, good morning. The recording has started. This is week 9 for Mobile App Portfolio 2. So just to recap from last week a little bit, we are talking about notifications here. I think I'm able to mirror my phone to my PC here and show you, yes, an example of push notification that I got here. You guys can see my screen, right? Yep, perfect. So here, Tom's group just sent out a test notification. So you can see here it says Poker Tracks, so that's the app name, 4 minutes ago. And then brand new blog posted, that's the title. And then here's the description text. They're saying not really, this is just a test notification. And then here there's an image or a thumbnail. And if we click this, or if I just drag down with my finger, then we actually get this expanded image view, which you make obviously the image for the blog post or whatever you wanted to show. It'd be really cool. I wonder if you could somehow like screen grab like a graph of their last 30 days or something and just be like, this is your monthly update or something. That might be a lot of work though to like create the image and then send the image out dynamically. But very cool. So as a user, notifications are working for me, which is cool. And hopefully, as I test in some of the iOS devices coming up, then we'll be able to see those as well. Cool. I'm trying to move this. Never know how to close this app. Okay, anyways, I'll put it in the background. Okay, so for today, I haven't made the folder for it yet. I'll upload this PowerPoint so you guys can get it on your side of things and download it from Blackboard here. But let me change the presentation. We're going to talk about analytics today, which is something sort of new. And has anyone used analytics? Has anyone gotten comfortable with some terms in analytics? Do you guys have analytics input into your app at all? Just want to kind of assess where you guys are at. When I say analytics, what do you guys immediately think of? Nothing? Just blank stares from everyone?
I think of like how many people have downloaded, like maybe the conversion rates from like who's looked at our listing. I think it probably has stuff to do with like A/B testing to an extent, but I don't really know to what extent. But a lot of kind of just like the numbers behind your app is kind of what I think of.
Okay, so what do you mean when you say you mentioned a really interesting one there, conversion rates? What do you mean by conversion rates?
I guess the way I was thinking about it was like, I guess like maybe for notifications, an example, like who saw the notification, who actually clicked to go into your app, or maybe who looked at your store listing and who actually like installed your app after looking at it.
Right, so you mentioned a bunch of cases. So there's a bunch of different use cases that can be considered a conversion, right? It just depends what you consider a conversion. It could be an in-app purchase, or an interaction, or even a download or first time of an opening. And then the other one you mentioned was A/B testing. You want to expand a bit on that?
Yeah, so I guess my understanding of it is trying out two different ways of doing the same thing and seeing if one maybe converts or works better than the other. So I guess sometimes it's maybe a design thing, or I guess design's the one that really comes to mind for me, but maybe moving around colors or buttons and seeing if it maybe works out better, or maybe like an app store listing, maybe looking different for some than other and see if maybe more people install your app.
Totally. Yeah, no, you're right on track with all of that. So that's awesome. That's exactly what analytics is. And I'm going to go through a couple examples. We're going to talk about some terms and definitions. So for those of you who don't know, what is he talking about with conversion rate or any of this stuff, we'll go through it first. There's parameters that you can set to measure conversion rates. And then I actually have a demo example that I can show you what it might look like. Then we're going to do a bit of research in our breakout rooms, and we're going to try to get some analytics solutions actually put into our app because it's not too difficult. So it's actually something we can do today. So I'll give some time to you guys later to do that in your teams. So Sandeep, if you want to text your team to come join you for the programming part, so you're not all on your own, then feel free to do that. All right, so why are analytics important? Obviously, we have goals for our company. We want to make money. We want to make money or we want to make an impact, right? And we want to gain as many users as possible. So depending on what you're measuring or what your goals are, you would want to use analytics, right? So it gives us insights on how the user uses the app, which parts of the app they're interacting with the most, or which parts they're interacting with the least, the actions they take. It helps drive ROI. So like what Tom was saying, you could try multiple things and see if it makes sense to spend that much on advertising, if people are getting clicks and downloads, or if it doesn't make that much sense to spend on advertising. And we can also just gather accurate data to better serve our customers, right? So if they're only using one part of our app, we can collect the data from that and enhance those features in that part of the app. All right, we can use the data to create new features, existing features, and improve them, or remove unused features. So we can look at things like revenue. We can look at things like KPIs, and a KPI, which stands for key performance indicator, really can be anything. We can look at how much awareness we're getting or whether or not we're achieving our goals. So speaking of goals, I want you guys to start thinking a little bit like what your goals for your specific app might be. Because in order for us to know how to use analytics, we need to understand what the goals are first that we're trying to reach. And then we can use the analytics to try to reach those goals. If you don't have the goal in the first place of I want to get this many downloads or I want to make this X amount in dollars by December 2022, then you're not going to be using analytics in a way that's meaningful to you or in a way that's adding value to your company. So the first thing to know is every app's different. So the goals for Poker Tracks might be completely different from the goals for Pitch Venture, right? Pitch Venture, you might want to try to get as many people on board, as many new franchises and franchise owners on board, whereas Poker Tracks, maybe they're just focused on trying to get subscriptions, right? And as many subscription purchases that they can get. So every app's different. So for example, games, they try to grow their user base and push in-app purchases a lot. A retail app tends to increase or want to focus on increasing their store traffic or strengthen their brand awareness. And then video streaming or music streaming apps like Spotify, Netflix, their goals are to increase the users subscribing to monthly plans, right? So it always depends what your app is. So I want you to come up with 2 goals in your teams. I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes. And it can be as simple or as complicated as you want. Remember, try to think SMART goals. So SMART goals, I'm not going to remember them all, so I'm just going to pull it up, is an acronym. Let's see here. I'll just pull up an image because it's a little easier to go like this. So it's a specific goal. So what do you want to do, or what do you want to attain with your app? It'll just be easier to go like this. How will you know when you've reached it? So it's measurable, right? So there's some type of number, something you can measure. Is it achievable? So is it realistic? Well, achievable and realistic, they're right beside each other. So is it achievable? Is it in your power to accomplish it? Is it realistic? Can you realistically achieve it? Those are very similar. And then timely, when do you want to accomplish it? So come up with 2 goals, make them pretty, succinct and specific with those types of specific, measurable, realistic, and timely expectations for yourself. I'll give you guys 5 minutes in your breakout rooms. Just discuss what your app's goals would be, and then we'll kind of come back and share with the class. Cool? Any questions? No? Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to close these rooms. For some reason, I have to close them first, and you should get a little notification on your screen. And I will start the 5-minute timer. All right. Okay, so welcome back. How was that? Did you guys get 2 goals worked out? Was that enough time? Okay, good. All right. So we're just gonna, I don't know if my screen's sharing anymore, actually. No. Okay, now it should be. So we're just gonna share from our teams. I'm just gonna add some text boxes to this slide, and we'll just share in our teams. So what were your 2 goals? Sandeep, I was just talking to you. So you said position in the market. So you want to be better positioned in the market.
Yes, kind of. Like
So
when
you
we
want to grow
when
your
we
brand
think about
awareness
the
kind of thing.
yeah, like see when we think about the music and Spotify always come in mind. Like that those guys are having position in the market and like people can identify their application by just their name. So this kind of positioning in future I definitely want for my one of the application.
Okay, so then how would you know if you reached this goal?
Like when there are a lot of loyal users to use the application on the regular basis, then I can say I am having that position in the market.
So you'd want recurring users to grow and be sustained.
Yes, sir.
So how many recurring users would make you feel like you've grown your brand awareness and improved your position market?
Like I believe like there should be at least $10,000, sorry, 10,000 users, active users for the application to make it at least to be stay in the market.
Okay, and when, so how much time do you think would be reasonable
Yeah, it would,
to get that many
especially on
users?
the iOS platform, it would take time. I believe it would be more than 1 year.
So how
Like
long?
1 year, I believe, at least. Like app, even though app is good, but it is not easy to grow on the iOS platform. There are a lot of the professional companies already.
Well, iOS is one of the best platforms out there to get
Yeah,
people, right? So iOS and
yeah,
Google Play, those are the 2 most. Okay, and what was your other goal, Sandeep?
yeah. I was saying the user stickiness. Like if one user install that application, it is our responsibility that user should not uninstall that application even though after using few months. So we are thinking that I believe we can accomplish those things with the constant updates and the customer services.
So you want to lower the rate of uninstallations?
Yeah, with the user stickiness, with the loyal user.
Okay, those are good. Sweet. All right. Poker tracks. What were your guys' goals that you came up with?
Yeah, so they both kind of played into the same thing. We were thinking we really want to, grow our community and have a good reputation. So the 2 that we came up with, the first one was we are targeting 100 unique users within 3 months of deployment.
Targeting 100 unique users within 3 months
Yes.
of deployment. Okay. So, and those would be like, when you say targeting, you're meaning you're trying to obtain new users?
Yes, exactly. Like ideally we'd
Yeah.
have 100 active users after 3 months.
Okay.
We feel like that's
Perfect.
good progress showing that, the app is working.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's good. So that's measurable. I think that's obtainable. The 100 users in 3 months. I think that's realistic, and that's a good timeline. So Sandeep, I think the 10,000 in 1 year. I mean, it's doable. It just depends how much you spend in marketing, right? 10,000 is a pretty big number. So starting off small, but yeah, I mean, have big goals for yourself too, right? So I mean, you could probably go somewhere in between the 2 of those and find a good number. Awesome. And what was your other one, Tom?
Yeah. So the other one that we said was we are targeting an average app rating on the Google Play Store of 4.0 after 3 months of being deployed.
Okay, perfect. Great. Good. Yeah, so it really depends how serious, you take it, because you could get as serious as doing 10,000 active users. I mean, you could try to get 100,000 users in 6 months. It's really just depends if this is going to be your full-time gig or if this is just, side hustle or whatever for what you're doing. But each app and each goal for each app is going to be unique, as we're seeing here. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, guys. And Pitch Venture, what about you guys? What were your 2 goals? Oh, there you go.
Yes, our main goal is to get this franchise deals. One third of the franchise deals done through our app, like in 1 year period of time.
So when you say 1/3 of franchise deals, 1/3 of franchise deals currently where?
You mean
So we just tried to apply the basic TAM, SAM, and SOM properties. Like out of the total available market, we are trying to get as much people on board and retain them.
Okay, so 1/3 of all franchise deals out of the total market?
Yes, the 1/3 it is to get the maximum people on board. So it is 1/3 of audience on our application, not the deals.
Okay, so 1/3. Okay, not
Okay,
out of the. I was thinking the
our
total
goal is
available
to
market
get
in the world.
Yes,
1/3 of all users on your app would be making a franchise deal on your app. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay, so I might word that like 33% of users using the app make a franchise deal within the app. Yeah?
Yes.
And by what would be your like expected timeline for that?
In a year.
In 1 year. Okay. Sure. And then you guys have another one? Did you guys have a second goal? No? Okay, no worries. Okay, so try to think about a second goal there while we're going through this, because I'm going to ask the same question at the end of this, but after we go through all these examples, you might understand a little bit more about what's possible with analytics. So these are good. These are really good goals, and they're all different. They're vastly different from group to group, and it's unique to your app, right? So that's kind of what I wanted to show you here. And now we're going to go through some of the things that we can actually use the analytic tools for and some of the features. So filters, active users, conversions, engagement, revenue, adoption, acquisition, retention, and audience, and then mobile app events. These are all buzzwords, I guess you could say, or keywords when we're talking about analytics and things that you're going to come across when you're using your analytics platform, depending on what your group chooses to implement into your solution. So the first one, filters, is that we can just filter the data. It's pretty simple. It's pretty easy. But you can just filter the data based on the platform that you want to see. So if you want to see data for iOS or Android, if you want to view the date for the last 30 days or for the last year, you can define audiences that share similar traits. So you could have like a new users audience or purchasers, etc. Or you could filter based on user properties. So an age range, app version, device model, their gender, ads, and the frequency of how often they use the app. So that's filters. You can just easily set the filters in your analytics when you're on your dashboard. The next one is active users. This is being able to view your daily, weekly, and monthly active users plotted over time, and then look at it in real time as well with active users within the last 30 minutes. Then you can also see your top conversion events. So that's something we were talking about earlier with Tom. Tom mentioned conversion events, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more in detail during that period with your active users, right? So users opening up the app for the first time and maybe completing a tutorial could be an example of a conversion event. Okay, so conversions are the most important events okay, that you can measure. You can view data about your top conversion events and plot them over time. And I've got a bit more detail a little later on. Engagement basically is showing your average daily engagement. So you can graph trends for a time period selected for daily user engagement. You can also track your revenue with analytics. So you can show your total revenue consisting of combined value of all your revenue sources. So you can look at your average revenue per user, your ARPU, or you can look at your ARPPU, which is your average revenue per paid user. And then you can, again, use the time filter to select any time period that you want to see the revenue for that app. Adoption and acquisition are being able to view the app version adoption graphs. This shows the percentage of active users for each app version and for acquisition, so acquiring a user. And you can view your top acquisition channels. So similar to A/B testing, you can have channels and you can view which channels or which marketing strategies, or if it's direct searches on your Play Store, or if it's like an affiliate link, or if it's from advertising or ads that they're clicking on your app. You can view those top acquisition channels and which channels are creating the highest turnover rates. You can see the number of times the app was opened for the first time from each channel, and you can also see the lifetime value of the users who opened it. Retention and audience is, retention is groups that represent a set of users who started using your app at the same time. So if users all started on the same day or same week or all around Christmas time or something like that, then you can look at that group as a whole, and you can gain more information regarding your audience and their characteristics in terms of demographics, their devices, the location, and top countries they're in. So we could see something like, for example, for location, percentage of sessions from each of your top countries, or percentage of users on each of the top device models, as well as percentage of users on the operating system versions. Or we could look at percentage of male and female users by age group. Now, the next section is about events. So events are basically any important occurrence in your app that you want to measure with analytics. So once we know our goals, if you wanted to track how many times a user opened the Poker Tracks graph, or if you wanted to track how many times, for example, in Pitch Venture, that they clicked that button to see the $99 deal and viewed that page, you could capture what's called an event. So once you install your mobile apps analytic tool and it's integrated into your platform, your app, usually it automatically captures some basic events and user properties for you just off the bat. And then we have more customizability after that. So it will track any important occurrences in your app that you want to measure. So that's an event. Parameters, okay, so parameters, just like in programming, supply information that contextualize the events. And then user properties, these are important definitions for later on. User properties are attributes that describe the app user. So by supplying user properties, you can later analyze different behaviors of various segments of your user base. So you could have a user property that's defined as a saver or a buyer or a young tech geek or whatever you wanted to define a user property as. Events are essential to help you gain usage information regarding your app. The automatically collected events. So these ones you don't have to program. So typically, most analytics platforms will collect automatic events. They're triggered by basic interactions within your app. So for example, that could be like opening the app for the first time, uninstalling the app, clicking an ad, some very basic ones. You don't need to write any code to collect these events because they're already being collected. And if you want to check out the documentation, then check out that specific analytics tool documentation for more information for the events that are automatically collected. Now, predefined events, you can choose to think about this sort of like a marketplace of events that you could choose that are like predefined. It's like a library of predefined events that you can pick and choose which ones you want also tracked in your app. These are available for you to choose. There's generic and commonly used ones out there by most apps, and they're split into categories. So there's automatically collected events, which you don't have to write any code for. So user opening the app for the first time, viewing or clicking an ad, or making an in-app purchase, those are automatically collected. Then all apps, so some predefined events that you can select for your analytics could be when a user signs up, logs in, performs a search. If you're retail e-commerce, if a user added billing info to their account, added an item to their cart, or performed a checkout, then you can track that event. Job or education apps or real estate, if a user actually goes to see an item or goes to a house viewing and meets up with an agent or a list of items or issues a refund, you can track those events. And then for travel apps, very similar to e-commerce with billing info and adding items to a cart, except the parameters would include the flight numbers, number of rooms, nights, and passengers. So it is really crazy once you can start tracking some of this data, and it makes me feel a little bit, weary with some of the stuff that the apps on my phone are tracking. Now, custom events are even cooler than predefined events because predefined events can only get you so far. So you might have a specific detailed event that you want to capture on your app that you need to make a custom event for. So you actually have the ability to define your own custom event, and you can measure these things that are unique to your app. When you create a custom event, something important to remember is that there are naming conventions within the analytics tool that you're using. So again, check the documentation or the SDK for that analytics tool. So if you're using Firebase or if you're using, Mesh.io or whatever some of the analytics tools are, you have to follow their naming rules for your custom events. You can also create custom event parameters. So very similar to custom events, these are governed by naming rules as well. So you can pass custom parameters. So just like you can pass a flight number or whatever, you could pass like their last poker profit or whatever. You could pass their last franchise that they looked at. Okay, user properties. So we talked about this a little bit earlier. Now that you're tracking events, you can also track your users and group them into groups based on specific criteria. So user properties allow you to collect data about the users as opposed to the app itself, and you can target specific groups of users once you segregate them into different groups. Some user properties are automatically collected, so you don't need to define these. So automatically age, gender, country, language, the OS version that they're using on their phone. So if it's iOS 14 or Android 11, and then the app version that they have. Okay, so those are all automatically collected. Then you can also define active users based on a number of sessions. That's a good idea. So based on how many sessions they have per day or per week or per month, you can set your definition for what an active user is, right? So if you're not expecting users to open your app every day, but that's what the default is, then you can adjust your definition of an active user. You can also deliver certain messages or notifications or customized actions to different groups of people. So example, imagine if you're like Amazon or something, and you have now tracked that a user has added an item to their cart, but then they close the app. 1 week later, it might still be in the back of their mind, but they're not actually going to do anything. So then what you do is you send out a notification saying like, hey, this is in your cart still. Did you want to get it? Or you can notice that they put in the cheapest version of that product, and you could upsell the product and get them to buy the premium version of the product, especially if they're in the group of users who have already made a purchase, right? So if they're considered a buyer or a purchaser in your user properties, then you could target them that way. You could also send notifications to users who haven't used your app for 30 days, or you could provide help to a user who has failed a specific game level X number of times, and then you could have something pop up on the screen and show a hint or give them like a spare life or something like that. The next thing, so that was user properties. Now user sessions. This is the other aspect of users that we can track. This is the duration of time that they spend in your app. And when they use it for a specific amount of time, we define that as a user session. It allows us to gain insight into the amount of time users are spending in our application, and it's extremely important for all other analytics that we've talked about so far. So it helps us correlate how time factors into all the other analytics. So some examples of this. On average, how long do users spend time on your app on a daily basis? How long does it take users to finish a game level? How many sessions does it take before making an in-app purchase? Right? So those are some of the time-based analytics or questions we can answer with user sessions. By default, most app analytics tools will wait a minimum period. By default, it's usually 10 seconds before they record a session. Okay, so this will eliminate anyone who opened the app by accident or opened it and then closed it right away because they meant to open it up a different app. And there's also a maximum set period of time where it'll just stop recording. Usually by default, that's 30 minutes, and that is considered a user session. All right, you can change the session duration. So you can change the minimum and the maximum amount of time in order for a session to be tracked. Okay. Now, to talk about conversion events. So we mentioned earlier as these are the most critical events that you want to track. They're the ones that identify your most valuable customers, and this is why it's crucial for you to study them. The events, the users, their sessions, and their flow, like the acquisition channels that they came from, like if they clicked from advertising or whether they just searched it organically. So this way you can focus on the efforts, all your efforts on those channels. If that channel is getting you the most conversions, then you're going to pump all or most of your marketing budget into that channel. Okay, and try to replicate that success, bringing you one step closer to your goal if your goal is to convert more users, right? Which usually it is. Your goal is either to make more money or get more users, right? So growing your brand presence, growing your your store traffic are also very viable options. So let's say your main goal, for example, for your app is revenue. You're trying to make money and you're running multiple marketing campaigns to reach that goal. Your conversion event here will be when a user sees or clicks an ad and then makes an in-app purchase, right? Because revenue is our goal. So it's not enough for them to just see the ad and open it up. It's actually they have to make an in-app purchase, and that's considered a conversion, for example. So it doesn't matter if the campaign gets you the most app installs, right? You could get 1 million users, but no one actually bought anything. And then there's no conversion events because that's not your target, right? You would not deem that campaign successful. So the most successful campaign would be the one that gets you the most conversions at the lowest cost. So if you spent, $10 in marketing, or whatever, Facebook ads, and then people came over from Facebook and 90% of them all bought a product, well, then that's a really effective conversion rate and really effective marketing strategy. All right, so those are conversion events. The 3 main conversion events that are automatically recorded by default with app analytic tools are app launch. So the first time a user launches the app after installing it or reinstalling it. In-app purchases. So if a user completes an in-app purchase that is processed by the App Store on iTunes or Google Play Store, the product ID, product name, currency, and quantity are all passed as parameters in that case. And then the third automatic conversion event is e-commerce purchases. So when a user completes a purchase, whether they use the coupon or the currency that they make the purchase in, the value of the purchase, the tax, the shipping, and the transaction ID are all passed as parameters. For retail. In education and real estate, it's very similar, like all those things would be passed when they make a purchase. The quantity, the coupon that they use, the currency, value, location, start date, end date, number of nights, if it's a hotel that's been booked, number of rooms, number of passengers, the origin, the destination, if they're getting a flight, their travel class, all of those things are passed in the case of like a travel app, like a hotel or air travel app. So those are all automatically collected. You can also create custom conversion events. So just like we could create custom event tracking earlier, we can create custom conversion events as well. So the definition of valuable users from Pitch Venture to Poker Tracks to Fitness Arena are different. Your valuable customer might be someone who uses your app every day. Your value customer might be someone who actually spends something once per month or is a subscriber. So because it changes, sometimes it's hard to restrict them to one of those default conversion events, right? So sometimes we have to actually create our own custom conversion events for this. For example, we can set our custom conversion event to when our user reaches a certain level in our mobile game. So if they hit like level 1000 or something, then we have now made a conversion. We have someone who's addicted to our game and they're going to keep playing and tell their friends about it. Or when they perform a specific event a number of times. So for poker tracks, if they put in 10 poker games, that is now considered a conversion, right? So once they do an event a certain amount of times, then you can create that conversion event to track it. So now that you've heard some of these examples from the last slides, I want you to redefine your goals. And those first goals that you guys came up with, those are great. Those are awesome goals to work towards, like 100 users in 3 months or a 33% conversion rate of people making franchise deals. But I want you to now try to maybe redefine your goals or come up with new goals based off of some of the examples that we covered in the slides. So you've heard some of those ones that are time-based. Like I really liked, which was it? The user sessions. So how long users spend time on your app on a daily basis. And these don't necessarily have to even be goals, but think about questions you would want answers to with the analytics that the analytics could give you. So how long it takes users to finish a game level, how many sessions it takes before making an in-app purchase. And specifically, I want you to come up with what your definition of a conversion would be in your app. Okay, so come up with what a conversion would be and then maybe redefine your goals or come up with some questions that you guys might want. This is just to help you guys out once you get analytics, so you have some ideas of what to look for. So I'll open up these rooms. Any questions about that? Just gonna kind of continue the discussion. The main thing would be how do you define a conversion? But no, all good? Okay, sweet. Should get a notification on your screen there. Alrighty, welcome back. So let's hear from some of the teams. I was just with Sandeep. So his conversion rate, they have this option in their app here. They have this option, track a custom workout, and you can go through the workouts and add a custom workout. So we came up with, if a user does that, X number of times, so 10 times, then that would be considered a conversion. Or likewise, they have a favorites option where you can favorite a certain type of food or favorite type of weight or cardio exercise. And if you favorited 10 separate things, then likewise, you could consider that a conversion. And yeah, sorry, I'm summarizing for you, Sandeep. But the other thing that we talked about was the user sessions, and what he would consider an active user would be maybe a lot longer because people are working out. Workouts are pretty long, half an hour or an hour long, of people doing cardio exercise or anything, considered to or compared to, a mobile game or something where people might play for 5 or 10 minutes. So his active user definition might be very different than your active user. So what about you guys? Pitch venture. So Pran, what would you define your conversion event as?
Active user for our pitch venture application, active user would be any user who has completed his profile, who has been set up his account, and who is also providing his list, and he is updating his store. So we can we are planning to implement, and we can implement another thing, like only show the list of active users, like a user who has been active or who has logged in into, we get the update like when the user logged in. So if the user has logged in like in a month or so, then we can consider him as an active user. If
So-
anyone beyond that, it won't be considered as an active user.
So if they have a complete profile and they've logged in within like the last 30 days, they're an active user.
Yes.
Okay, nice. And then what would you consider a conversion event?
On the listing page, send request button, like when a user sends request to the franchisor or store owner, that would be an active conversion, like an actual event is happened, and the promotion button that user can boost their profile for 14 days, that would be the second.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that makes sense. When they make that purchase, an in-app purchase of $99, then that's their conversion. Nice. That's good. And Poker Tracks, what about you guys?
So for us, an conversion event will be like adding a poker session. So
Yeah. Would it be
adding-
just one poker session? That'd be like every time they do
No.
that, or the first time they
like
do it?
we are targeting like 10 poker sessions per 50 users. So 50 of the users are adding like 10 poker sessions. So that will shows like their commitment towards the app, like they are committing time to like track their sessions through our app. Like they will be adding their sessions like for tracking their sessions. So
Yeah,
I'll add
perfect.
that's a conversion event. Yeah.
And what would you consider an active user?
Who spends some of his time towards like adding their sessions and tracking their events through the graphs.
So like a minimum session time of
Yeah,
5
maybe,
minutes or something?
Yeah, 5 to 10 minutes would be a ideal range, I guess.
And you wouldn't want to consider them active if they've done that within the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But what would be your
Yeah,
time frame? Because I feel like people don't play poker, like some people don't play poker all the time. So what would be your time frame for considering an active user?
Maybe within like 1 to 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, that will be.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Nice. Awesome. Okay, that's great stuff, guys. So just a list. Yeah, sorry, Krupa, go ahead.
We have another goal that we thought of, that we can maybe keep track of user properties of the subscribers, so that we can find what they are spending their most time on our app, like the specific area, and we can just optimize that area. So that maybe in order to like have persisting them to keep subscribing to our app as the time goes, I guess.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, for sure. And even segregating your users into those user profiles or user groups, and you have like subscribers or purchasers versus the
just to
freebies
figure
or
out
whatever.
the specific area.
Yeah, and understanding what channels those people came from so that you can try to replicate or pump more money into those channels if they came from advertising or if they came from searches in Google Play. Yeah, totally. And then what you said, tracking their sessions or what they're spending time on, which features they're spending time on in their app, and being able to understand how subscribers use your app versus how maybe people who don't spend money use your app. And maybe you'd see that people use your blog versus people who use the tracking feature. But yeah, very good. Awesome. Good stuff, guys. I'm going to share my screen here again. So there's just a list of tools, analytic tools here. You do not have to use these by any means. I just put some of the popular ones in. So I'll upload this PowerPoint right now to Blackboard, but this link and then this last one here is the top 10 analytics tools. That's an old one, but there were some good ones on there. It's from 2018, but there's still some good analytics tools. But Firebase obviously is one of the most popular ones. Heap.io is another really popular one for mobile app analytics. And then obviously there's app analytics that comes with Apple developer, Apple, and then there's also one that comes with Google Analytics, marketingplatform.google.com. So you can look into these. Localytics, AppRadar, and Flurry are some other ones that are just off-brand names. But I want you guys now to take some time. Actually, before we do this, I was going to give you guys 15 minutes. Before we do that, I want to do a little demo with you guys. Let me see. Let me bring this over. Okay, so this is Firebase. Now, I didn't want to show you this because I don't necessarily want you to all choose Firebase just because it's the easiest option or whatever, and I don't necessarily even know for sure that it is the easiest option. I'm just saying I don't want you to go for it because it's the one I'm showing you because you think it's the easiest option. There might be better options out there. So really actually do your research. They're all just as easy to implement. If you are using Firebase features, then maybe you want to use Firebase because then everything is all in one. You have your analytics dashboard as well as your notifications and your data. That's fine. I have a feeling that a lot of people would go to Firebase, but if you want to use Heap, if you want to use Apple's or Google Analytics or whatever, then by all means, please explore because there's a lot of solutions out there. So this is an app called Flood It. You can download it for Apple or Google Play, and they have, I have access to their Firebase Analytics. Okay, so you can go install this and you can become a user of this app if you want, and we can see if you show up in the analytics. But I'm going to go to the analytics homepage and we can see here how many users they have, in the last 30 minutes, and we can get an idea of where their users are coming from. Okay, so let's just poke around here, and I want to explore Firebase Analytics with you guys a little bit. So this is the home dashboard. So we see users in the last 30 minutes. So this is real-time data. And we can see users per minute. So 19 minutes ago versus 5 minutes ago, whatever. So if you guys download this app and install it right now, maybe I'll see you pop up. And we can see, 0 minutes ago, we had 2 users. Most of our users are coming from India and the United States. And if I click this button, we can actually view the real-time data. Just loading here for our geographical audience. Now, you can see some of the things we were talking about today. Okay, so here's our map. This is our real-time overview, which Firebase gives us, which is pretty cool. So we see 93% of users are on their mobile app, and 6% or 6.7 are on the tablet. Now, here's a map. We have a lot of users in Kenya, a lot of users in India, a lot of users in the States, mostly near Birmingham and Atlanta, okay? Some over in Albuquerque and some in Arlington. Now, scrolling down, we can see the source. So users by first user source. So direct is just a direct link from here, from the website, I believe. Then Google would be if they came from online, from the search engine. And then Google Play would be if they searched it on the Google Play Store. Now, this next section is how you can define your users. So like I mentioned earlier, creating user profiles, like you could have spenders, you could have savers. Here we have all users, so there's 72 in the last 30 minutes, and we can see which percentage or out of those 72 users fit into a user category. So we have level beaters V1, level beaters V2, which they're both 25 users each. We have extra steps users. So obviously with these levels, there's going to be some extra steps you can take, I think, at the end of the, I've never played the game, but there's extra steps you can take at the end of the game to do some stuff. So they categorize users who do those extra steps into the extra steps category. Then we have crashing users, and then immediate users, and then a couple other, we have purchasers and then experts. So we had one purchaser in the last 30 minutes and one expert. All right. A couple of these other things, views by page title and screen name. So here they're going into flood it. Here they're going into the root view controller interstitial screen that had 15 views. Here we can see the event counts in the last 30 minutes. So the number one event that has been counted 655 times is a screen view. Then there's user engagement, level start, quick play, select content, session start, level end. There's 27 of these events, post score, level stat. So obviously if they share their score to a leaderboard, if their level failed, or if they had an ad impression, all of those things are tracked, right? And we can click these to gain more insight if we wanted to. Okay, I'm going to scroll down. Now we can look at conversions. So their conversion that they're tracking is first open, right? And we can see that there's underscores in all of these. That's the naming convention I was talking about. So in the last 30 minutes, we had 12 conversions. So, brand new users who are for their first time opening the app, and then users by user property. So ad frequency, initial extra steps, or Firebase last notification. So if they got a notification from Firebase and opened it, we could see them, the users broken down by those properties. Okay, so that's some of the real-time analytics we can look into, and you can go down into the details here, and we can look at acquisition, retention, engagement, monetization. We can even see demographics. So it's really quite intuitive to start looking through your analytics. Now, obviously, if you don't have the numbers or people who have downloaded your app, it's a little bit harder to get trends and patterns if you only have 5 people. That's why we want to focus on pushing and marketing our app so that we can, actually play around with some of this stuff. So here's our demographics overview. 23,000 users in India, 9,000 users in the States, then Pakistan, Kenya, and Bangladesh. By city, so we have Nairobi, Lagos. 68% are male, 31% are female. The interests that our users have, this is pretty interesting: media, entertainment, animation fans, shoppers, technology, food and dining, right? So if we know this, we know what kinds of ads we can put in. And then users by age, 25 to 34 is our most popular category. And then 18, 24, 35, 44, and then the older they get, the less common. We can break it down from users to new users to returning users, and we can look at all of these statistics and see if there's any interesting trends, and see, like, our new users, the age range is the same, so maybe nothing interesting there. Our returning users, the age range, it's the same. So pretty cool. Is there any other stuff that you'd be interested to see in this app that you might want to see if we can look at? Has anyone used Firebase Analytics before?
Crash reports.
Yeah, sorry, Harshit, yeah.
Crash reports.
Crash reports. Okay, let's see if we can find some crash reports. I just want to see this load. Here we go. Okay, so this is our demographic details by country. Same sort of information broken down. Okay, so that is demographics. I want to see if we can find some crash reports. And this is all for the last, what is this? This is for the last 90 days. So remember filters, I was talking to you about filters is up here in the top right. You can change your time range or your date range and filter based on the last 30 days, last 1 day, last year, and I can change my calendar here. I can pick any of these preset ones, last 7, 28, 30 days, or I can set a custom event on the calendar or a custom date range. Let me close that. So here we can see our user retention from day 0 for the last, what is this? For the last 42 days ending on March 15th. Our retention is not the best, right? We can see our channels, paid search, organic search, display, or direct, where we got those users from, referral links. We can see how many new users we got, 57,000, and the lifetime value of a user. Obviously, it's a free app, so it's going to be 0, but pretty cool. Let's see if we can explore some. So that's in the report section. I don't know if the crash reports are actually in the analytics page. They might be. I might have to go to the Firebase console, which I don't know if I have access to. This is just the demo, their demo account. Yeah, I only have access to the analytics. So here we can explore and we can create new forms or new graphs, I guess, or reports if you wanted to. We can take a look at advertising here, and we can see how many users we got from each channel. So how many conversions, how many new users or new installs we got from each channel. So organic search, paid search, and then direct. And then there's a couple insights. Total ad revenue for the campaign source Google in India has dropped from March 6th to 12th. And you can just get some insights on what's happening. We can also look at our channels here as well. So pretty cool stuff. Conversion paths. This is kind of that thing that was talking about funneling or funnels. So sometimes your user takes a pathway before they get converted. So they might go from here to here. They might take this action, and then all of a sudden you've got a conversion. And we can see some of these pathways. So they do paid search and then display, unassigned and then display, paid search, display, and then organic search. And then this is how many conversions we've gotten from them. Days to conversion, so how long it took, and how many touch points. So the maximum amount of touch points was 2. So that's how many different steps or pathways before they actually converted. Right. I think that's mostly it for Firebase. Oh, yeah, these are cool too. So if I go to configure, now we can view the custom dimensions and the custom metrics that we're tracking. So you can see there's some recommended events. So if you have a game, earn virtual currency is one, or tutorial begin, tutorial complete that you can add. You can measure ad clicks. So for the last 28 days, we've had 459 ad clicks. That's up 13%. That was 1,000 users that clicked it. Ad impressions, we had 53,000 impressions, but only 400 people actually clicked them, probably by accident. Completed quick play with 20 steps, right? So that's probably a custom event that we're tracking. And we can go through this, and there is 38 of these. Level reset, level retry, first visit, first open. You can all track these. These are just events. Then there's conversions. These are the really important ones, right? So add to cart, add to wish list, app update, begin a checkout, first open, that's a big conversion, level complete, that's a conversion. So you can have multiple conversion events that you're tracking as well. We can look at our audiences. So these are different types of users. Audiences based on predicted user behavior are now available. Oh, that's cool. Custom definitions. So these are the custom ones that they've created. Ad frequency and initial extra steps. The number of extra steps users granted when first opening the app. etc. And then debug view. Maybe this will show you some crashes, Harshit. I'm not sure. We wanted to see if we could find some of those. I thought it was still loading. I'm not sure. Maybe it won't show. No device is available. Okay, well, I think that's it. So that's analytics. If you have Firebase Analytics, then you have access to things like BigQuery, Data Studio, all of these things where you can create custom reports and do custom queries and really get into the dirty details of analytics. So it is pretty cool how it's all integrated very easily with Firebase. So there's a couple other projects I have access to here, like this Google merchandise, or what was the other one? This web page. We can graph out all our users. This is a web app though, so not as interesting. All right, so a couple links that I'm going to post in the Blackboard page. The Firebase Analytics.event. So these are all the events that are reserved. These are the ones that already exist. There's a ton of them. Okay, and then this is what they all do. Again, an event is an important occurrence in your app that you want to measure. You can report up to 500 different types of events and 25 unique parameters with each event. Events can be 40 characters long, etc., and they have to be prefixed with the word Firebase and then have underscores instead of spaces. User properties, which we talked about already. There are some reserved ones: age, gender, interest. We can do them for iOS and for Android here on Firebase. Before you begin, you have to set the user property in Kotlin or in your Android Studio, and then you can create your custom user property that way. But that is all Firebase stuff. Before you guys automatically just choose Firebase, I'm going to give you guys 15 minutes in your teams to do some research and figure out which analytics tool you want to use. And if you decide on an analytics tool, how you're going to implement it, create the Trello ticket, who's going to implement it, and what events and user properties do you want to start tracking, right? So, you know, obviously pick all the automatic ones. The automatic ones will be automatically collected, but then pick the predefined ones, the predefined events, and then if you want to make any custom ones that you want to track. So I'll upload this PowerPoint now and then put you guys in your breakout rooms. Any questions? You're going to take 15 minutes and research these analytics tools and see which ones would be the best for your app. Any questions? No, thumbs up. Okay. All right, I'm going to open the breakout rooms, and then if you go in the week 9 folder, I'm just creating it now. The PowerPoint will be there. So week 9, there we go. All right, see you guys in 15 minutes. I'll start the timer.